Hey, you're outside too.
Hi.
We're all outside.
Uh, Had to.
Finally. Well, it is bearable now compared
Yes.
to, the rest of the day.
The breeze is good.
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself, is this our last one of these?
I think it is.
I think it is too, because next week we have graduation. And then the week after that is pickup and then the other graduation.
Mhm.
Hard to believe.
Oh my gosh. Think of when we just started this.
I know.
Come a long way. This is my last turtleneck. I don't have any more.
I have a sleeveless one. You want to borrow it?
Randy, it was so good to see you today
You gave a license? Oh no, you.
Lovely to see you too. It's
with our masks.
connect with humans.
You got to see each other in 3D?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Busy working on copiers today. So saw her, saw some of the custodians, saw some of the lunch staff. It was nice.
Are they pretty sleek, those copiers?
They are pretty nice.
Good.
You got new copiers?
We did.
Copiers.
Nice.
Let's hope we can get in and use them at some point.
I'm super spoiled because the copier that I'm using at the hospital is like rinky dink small compared to the schools. And then the paper like cutter, the guillotine thing, they have a plastic one at the hospital because nobody ever does that much paperwork. And it's just like, oh, I'm so spoiled at GVS. Sorry, I don't know how loud to speak.
Randy, do you want me to, that other thing, do you want me to give you that number tonight, or do you want to wait for the morning?
Maybe the thing to do is just to reimburse me and have me just do it on my own. But either way you want, however you want to do it.
Okay.
I just can't believe how difficult they make it for some things and other things. Usually they're happy to take your money.
Yep. We were trying to pay a bill for over an hour today and just can't do it.
Crazy.
Please take our money.
I know, we're trying. So we've got about 3 people on so far, and that's kind of what we had last week. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Actually, Karen, you're first up on my screen. Why don't we start with you? How are things in health?
Great. 6th grade's been watching their growth and development video. I guess they did that last week. And then Casey, Ian, and I got together and did a little question and answer session on Monday. And so I think they're watching that this week. And 5th grade's working on their video this week. We'll do another question and answer. Chris, maybe I need to get with you, find a date, time. And I believe I'm sending a link on Heather's Friday letter tomorrow about the
MISC.
The inflammation that some kids are getting after about 4 weeks after being diagnosed with COVID or having COVID. So some more information on that tomorrow.
Great. Thank you very much. Chris, how are you tonight? How are things with lunch bunches and guidance and everything in that world?
Kids are ready to end as our parents. I've been kind of coming up with a breakfast club schedule for the summer, and it's going to be a 6-week series, and it's all going to be preparing kids for managing anxiety, and I'm kind of looking towards the fall and thinking there's a lot of uncertainty there, which it always brings on some anxiety, so I'm going to be really working with that. I'm in tomorrow's newsletter, I'm going to include a link to this ebook, which it's actually a free ebook, so that's nice. It's called Playing with Anxiety by Lynn Lyons, and it's a good book for kids and probably parents to read together. So that'll come out. The schedule for the breakfast clubs will come out tomorrow also.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and thanks again for doing that throughout the summer. I think that'll be great.
It'll be good to, and I think that's another thing for parents to do is make sure that their kids are keeping a connection to the school in some way, whether they're doing drive-bys or walking around the school or outside doing bikes. I think the less anxiety about returning, it'll be less anxiety about returning if they have that connection to school over the summer.
Great. And Brandy with tech.
Hi, so we're still progressing along, getting towards the end of the year. Most of the students seem to be still working along fine with their devices and software. The things I'm starting to focus on now are winding things down. How do we go about collecting these things back, making sure that I've got each one of them properly allocated to the right person as they come in, so we check them off. And the plan is to, again, collect everything. I think the week after school is done, I think is when we're planning on having that happen. But parents right now should be thinking about getting those things all back into one place in one piece. I know that there's been a lot of technology all over the place as people have been doing their work. A lot of students are using their parents' devices, their siblings using other siblings' devices. There's all kinds of things like that going on. And so we want to try and get everything back to the original state that it was in when we gave it to you, so that it's ready to go in the fall and clean and operating and ready to go. So that's one of the primary things that I've been focusing on, is starting to plan for that so that we can just check everything off and everybody's accounted for when it all comes back in. Other things that are happening within technology and UA in general is just talking about lessons learned on process and procedure that we've gone through, and getting feedback from families on that too. I was delivering an iPad today to somebody to replace it, and got some really nice feedback from the parent about the process and how it's working and some of the things that we can incorporate. So those are all things that I'm thinking about as we start to close down here.
Great. It'll be nice, I think, for everybody to have a little bit of a breather at the end of the school year, to really step back and then, you know, really actually have some time to reassess and think when we have some time to reflect, because I'm not sure if we're at that actual reflective stage yet, even though we try every day.
Absolutely.
There's too much going on right now.
Right. Well, I also wanted to try and hear from people too while it was fresh, so we can think about how can we make this better. Everything was very ad hoc when we left the building, and I'd like to try and be as planful as we can once we get back in the fall, no matter what the situation.
Great. Thank you. Heather, you're up.
So I'll piggyback a little bit off of something Randy said and something Chris said. So Randy talked about the dates of the pickup, the drop off of computers. So we've scheduled that, weather permitting, for the 11th, which is a Thursday. And we're going to coordinate also with the seniors from high school. And we'll have, we're going to be set up all around the campus as a drive-through, and we encourage families to decorate their cars like they typically do on the last day of school. And the seniors are going to drive through first so that they can say goodbye to their teachers and get a chance to be at their old elementary school. They like to do that. So that we'll kick off with that, and then we'll have our exchange after that. And I'll put the times and the details in the family letter on Friday. And then Chris was talking about connecting with kids over the summer. And so we've been spending a lot of time working on putting together some plans with different staff members who will be checking in with specific kids. And we typically do a summer program that's a tutorial type program for students who need it. But this summer we've expanded that to be a much larger group than normal. So if your child was selected to be part of that group, if they're going to be invited for that, you'll get an email from either myself or Leanne Rue next week inviting you for that. And that will all be distance learning again. But we want to try to stay connected with kids. And I think a lot of kids have gotten into the habit of visiting with teachers and staff members just by popping up through our email, doing a quick chat. I have lots of kids saying hello now during the day, which is really nice. So that summer programming is well underway. Also, we've finished up our placement list for next year. Thank you to parents for your feedback and input for that. We'll be sharing those lists next week. The intermediate kids will find out their teacher for the next year on Tuesday, and the primary kids will find out on Wednesday. And then the last day of school will include a step-up time where they'll meet with their new teacher. And then we're going to have a whole school assembly to wrap up the year. So that's what's going on for the end of the year. And I wanted to also say thank you to huge numbers of parents and kids and community members who have reached out to me to wish me well as I head off into the sunset. And, you know, thank you so much for my time at GVS. It has been such a gift. And, you know, this school family will forever be in my heart.
Thank you. And you'll be heading off to hopefully the next best adventure. Not so thanks very much. And thanks for all the coordination that everybody's been doing to get into the end of the year too. We are going to be discussing I know that I sent a letter yesterday, but we'll be discussing a little bit more about an interim principal position at our board meeting on Tuesday. So we encourage you to attend our board meeting next Tuesday. And I also wanted to just remind parents about, I think it's still open if you haven't done the survey from the state about remote learning. I believe it's open until tomorrow, if you have a chance to do that. And at this point, I would really just like to open it up to any questions that anybody has or comments.
I think we need to learn how to juggle or something during these quiet times, or do some kind of
Get Jonathan back in there.
magical square.
Karen, I thought you were volunteering to juggle.
No, yeah.
Okay, I don't see any questions or comments coming in. We know that the end of the year is usually busy, and it's a different kind of the end of the year, so just make sure you keep in touch and ask questions and clarifications. And I know that everybody will be getting some good information out for you. And Heather's been putting together a massive schedule over everything that's going to happen in the next few weeks. So we will help to keep everybody on track. We do have a question coming in from David. I'm starting to get the sense that we are not confident we will be in school for the start of the school year. Thoughts? I really have no crystal ball as to what the fall is going to look like. I know that the task force that the governor and the New Hampshire Department of Education has set up, they have had, I believe, 3 meetings so far. They've sent out the survey. I think they have at least 2 more meetings scheduled, and they'll be looking at all of the possible scenarios for whether we continue in remote learning or coming back. But on top of that, we just still don't know what's going to happen with the virus over the summer. So everything is going to happen and be dependent on the kind of results and the kind of data and the kind of contact tracing that we're doing over the summer to see where we are. So there's really still a lot of factors. I think it's a coin toss still at this point. I really couldn't say if we will or won't be in. All I can tell you is that we'll be prepared for both. Another question, how is the summer school list determined? So we did a couple of different things for selecting students, but the majority of it was just coming from teachers and their tracking of students' experiences in remote learning to see if we were interested in making sure that some students kept up their skills over the summer, if they had maybe specific skills that they weren't there for and that they can do those over the summer, just a really specific targeted skill. We went through lists of students who also have either 504 or IEP plans and, you know, the appropriateness of summer instruction for them. So it was a really comprehensive process to see who would be recommended for the summer programming. Heather or Chris, do you want to add anything to more about that selection?
I think you did a really nice job summarizing it. There was feedback from teachers, from Unified Arts, from regular classroom teachers, paraeducators who've been working one-on-one with kids. We've looked at assessment data. There was a whole collection, a whole body of evidence that we looked at, and then Sydney was able to use some grant funds to expand. I mean, our normal staffing is much smaller for the summer program. It's just a few people, but Sydney was able to expand that staffing so that we could meet the needs of more kids.
And for a longer period of time too. So we went from about 4 weeks to almost 10 weeks. I hope that helps. Are we seeing higher numbers this year following distance learning? I'll start with that and then I'll hand it over to Heather too. I think that that's a yes and no question because we have been able to keep in touch with kids, obviously, and make contact with kids regularly. We have obviously had to adjust what we would normally complete for instruction by this time. And then there are some things, in some cases, of students who would be attending a summer program where we may or may not be able to get very accurate assessments of where they are just because we are in distance learning. And I know that that was a factor with a few kids. And what else would you say with that, Heather?
I would say the other piece is that I don't think we have more kids who need the academic support in the traditional way that we use for summer programming, but we expanded the programming to support the kids who maybe the distance learning has just, it's a little harder on like social emotional. They need more check-ins with adults. They need more FaceTime and more conversations. You know, when you do a hands-on project, it's a little different than when you see a video of it. So I think, you know, some of the kids have they're craving that that adult interaction and peer interaction. So giving them a little more contact, that ongoing piece. And, you know, like Chris was saying about trying to reduce the anxiety about going back to school, if we can keep those kids connected a little longer, then that should help ease some of the anxiety about going back to school as well.
Okay. Karen, it's time for you to juggle because I'm going to say, are there any other questions or comments that anybody?
I can flip to the struggle between fighting for leftovers and dinner and that's going on in here. So you watch the wrestling match.
Well, I've gotten to the point where I hide certain groceries if I need them for a recipe or else someone will eat them.
John just said that's wrong.
One final question. How do you think distance learning has gone in general?
Want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
I think that it has, you know, like Randy was talking about earlier, we've really had to learn a lot of things on the fly. We have an outstanding staff who has really strong instincts. We have the resources that we need to do the best job we possibly can. So I'm extremely proud of what an outstanding job GVS staff and students have done at this with distance learning. You know, there are silver linings all over the place. We're seeing some kids who are more successful with distance learning than they are in the classroom. So, you know, that matches the needs of the students. But I think GVS has done an outstanding job with distance learning.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that ways that teachers have adapted to the ways, to deliver certain instruction, and the resources that they found, and the ways that they've just creatively presented something in a completely different way is just astounding. And then the paras who on a daily basis are reaching out and connecting with kids and creating relationships with them even stronger than when they were in school in some cases. It's just been, I know that, like, I think a silver lining is a great way to put it, because while I don't think anybody thoroughly enjoys this situation, I think GVS has just done an amazing job at finding all the good that we can in it. And one feedback, a parent saying we're 50-50, extremely well for one and not so great for the other. I can tell you that that's the same with my own kids too. My son is thriving in this, and wouldn't have been thriving as much when he was in school. And then my daughter is missing school and wishing she was there. So yeah, I get it. It's completely different. And another comment, we agree it was great with our kinder. She looks forward to it every day. Which is nice. And I can tell you, we all look forward to those meetings every day too. Very much. And then one other question came in, just saying, when do you expect to have a tentative plan for fall? So again, that's really going to depend a lot on the task force that's in place, and the survey that's going out, the information they get from that. And more than anything else, the fall is going to be dependent on what's happening with the virus around our area at that time. I think as we all knew in the beginning of the week, the numbers started to look really good and started to show some wonderful signs. And then I also know that people are thinking it was just a big visiting time and Memorial Day weekend, and more people are coming up, and we don't know what the effect of that is going to be for a couple of weeks. So vigilance and keeping with all of the protocols, and our social distancing and masks and tons of hand washing and all those things that you've been doing so well for so long, I would highly recommend we continue, so that we don't have to go in the other direction. One quick message, just thank you all for making this work. And I would say right back at you, because it's been everybody. We've all made it work. It's been great. I do like, Karen, I don't know if you heard the analogy that Dr. Sanjay gave on CNN about how we can't give up on our vigilance right now. He said, sometimes when you're sick and you take a course of antibiotics and you start to feel better, so you don't finish them. He said, that's exactly what we can't do right now.
That makes a lot of sense.
We have to see it all the way through, or we could wind up worse off than before we did all of this. So just so important to keep health as the #1 priority for everybody.
And yesterday when it was so hot out and we were all sweating, Karen was out there at DHMC in her hazmat suit, sweating.
How did
like
that feel?
crazy.
It was pretty hot.
Thank you.
I have dreams that Caitlin got a little kiddie pool, and I'm thinking, can we bring this and just sit in it and then, keep a little cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Sydney, I was going to use as a background the photo out my window from May 8th, which is not very long ago, where we had snow. And I just couldn't get the picture to orient right. But anyway, that's only a little more than 2 weeks ago.
Isn't that hard to believe?
It's crazy.
And now we're all complaining about the heat.
Yep.
Life in New England. Okay, this is our last parent session, which is also hard to believe. We really hope that you join us this same time next week, though, because we're having a big watch party for our 6th grade graduation, and we want as many people from the community to be there with us to celebrate. And then the week after that, we'll be doing the drive-through drop-off and pickup, as Heather described. So there's still a lot to come. And then I will be sending periodic notices home whenever I hear anything from the task force, whenever there's some kind of decision made, anything like that. I'll just keep sending that home and putting it on our website, just to, over the summer, make sure that we keep everybody informed. Okay. And I don't see anything else coming in, so I think we're good for tonight. Is it supposed to be as hot tomorrow? No.
Possibly rain, but somebody doesn't think that we're going to get the rain, or possibly might not get rain.
I said there's chances. I didn't say I didn't think. I said
There's a chance it won't come or something. I don't interpret always very well.
Does he know about the weather though? No.
He's the weather.
Yeah, keep track a little bit.
Just kidding. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks very much.
You too. Bye.
Bye.